Welcome to day 3, where we are calculating the slope of a linear function using a table, which is SOL 8.16b. The students will identify the slope and y-intercept of a linear function given a table of values, a graph, or an equation in y equals mx plus b form. Going over yesterday's homework assignment, you were given 3 examples and asked to find the y-intercept. That is the point on the graph table or chart that you were given where the x-coordinate is 0. So for example, 1, at point 0, your y-intercept is 1. For example, 2, your y-intercept is 3. And for example, number 3, your y-intercept is negative 1. Today's objective, I can identify the slope of a linear function given a table of values. Materials needed are graph paper, pencil, and calculator. Important vocabulary terms that we will go over for this week are as follows: linear function, slope, positive slope, negative slope, zero slope, undefined slope, the slope-intercept form of a linear equation, and y-intercept.
Notice that there are a number of ways that we can represent slope. On the left in the graphic, you can see that slope is equal to rise over run. It is equal to delta y over delta x. And the slope formula, which is very important, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. On the left side, you can see some other representations of slope. The change in y over the change in x, and the vertical change over the horizontal change. These are all different ways to describe slope.
We ask that you please pause the instructional slides at this time to go over the instructional videos attached on the slope definition, what is the slope formula, and how to calculate the slope using a table. Please take notes accordingly and resume the PowerPoint once you are done. Welcome back. It's time for independent practice. So using the notes that you just took from the videos, we'd ask that you please answer the following questions. Number 1, find the slope using the given table. Hint, pick 2 points and use the slope formula. Please pause the slide at this time and calculate the slope as requested.
Let's look at the solution for example 1. In example 1, we are asked to find the slope using this given table. To find the slope using a given table, we first need to select 2 points from the table that we want to use in our slope formula. This is our slope formula. This formula you will need to memorize. So we want to first select 2 points to use in our slope formula. Which 2 points you use is not important. You can pick whichever ones you like. I personally like to pick points that don't have any negatives in it because, as you can imagine, negatives and subtractions can get a little tricky, but it really doesn't matter. I'm going to select this point here, 1, negative 2, and then I'm going to select this point here, 3, 2. So when I select those points, notice here in my formula I have y2, y1, x2, and x1. So all this means is this is the x coordinate for my point number 1, and this is the y coordinate for my point number 1. This is the x coordinate for point number 2, and this is the y coordinate for point number 2. And so I'm going to make this point number 1, and this one's going to be point 2. Again, it doesn't matter. This one could have been point 1, this one could have been point 2. That part doesn't matter. So then this becomes my x1 and my y1, and this becomes my x2 and my y2. And you want to establish that before you get started, so that way when you start plugging in your numbers, you're not confused about what number goes where. So now I'm going to go ahead and start plugging my numbers into my formula. So the numerator says y2 minus y1, y2 minus y1. And notice I have a negative there, so I am going to put that in parentheses so things don't get messy. In the denominator, I have x2 minus x1. So x2 minus x1. Now I just need to simplify. So 2 minus negative 2 is 4. And please remember, you can use if you have a calculator, you can use that. But if you have decimals, you can use that. But you don't necessarily have to calculate this in your mind. But of course, the numbers are simple enough. So 2 minus negative 2 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now, I can simplify this fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And that is my slope.
For example number 2, we're asking you to do the same as you did in example number 1, which is finding the slope using the given values in the table. So please, once again, pick 2 points and use the slope formula to find the slope. Please resume the slides after you have done so.
Let's look at the solution to example 2. Just like in example 1, the first thing we want to do is make sure we have our slope formula written down. Then we want to select 2 points from our table that we want to use in our slope formula so that we can calculate our slope. Remember, it doesn't matter which 2 points you use whichever 2 points you like. I'm going to go with this point here and this point here. No particular reason why, those are just 2 I want to select. So this is going to be point number 1, and this is going to be point number 2. All right. Remember, from there, we want to determine what is y2, y1, x2, and x1, so that when we go to substitute that in, we don't make any mistakes. So this is point 1, which means this is x1 and y1. And this is point 2, which means this is x2 and y2. So then we know when we're plugging into our formula which numbers go where. So my numerator says y2 minus y1. So y2 minus y1. My denominator says x2 minus x1. Remember, when you have minus and negative, always put that in parentheses so that you don't get confused. Now I want to simplify this. Remember, you have your calculator, you can use that. The decimals calculator on your computer, you can use that as well. So I have -1 minus 1, which is going to give me -2. And then I have -2 minus -4, which is the same as saying -2 plus 4. So that's going to give me a +2. And again, if you want to just double check your math in your calculator, that is perfectly fine. -1 minus 1 gives me -2. And then my denominator, -2 minus -4 gives me 2. Okay? And then I want to simplify that. So -2 divided by 2 gives me -1 for my slope.
Now we'd ask that you answer these 2 questions for homework, which you are finding the slope of the line that passes through the points on each of these tables. We will go over the answers at the top of tomorrow's session. Now we'd ask that you log into your Clever account and to complete at least one Dreambox lesson today. Remember, if you have time to complete more than one, please, please, please do so. Thank you for joining us today, and we will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a good day.